on behalf of the Fixing the Business of Food, which is a consortium of universities, and Marta Antonelli was supposed to intervene, but unfortunately she was not able to be with you today, and so I'm substituting her in this very interesting panel. And thanks, Jackie, for your presentation, and also I would like to thank previous speakers because they have said very clearly which is the scenario where we are working on. I would like to try to share a presentation if it is possible. I'll see if it works or not. I don't know. Can you tell me if it works? Okay. So as I said before, what I'm presenting today is the results of an initiative which is run by the Barilla Center for Food of Nutrition, SDSN Global, Columbia University, with its Columbia Center on Sustainable Innovation, Investment, and Santa Clara Lab of the University of Siena. As Alan was said, business can play a very important role in the transition towards sustainability. So companies can play a role, as it was said. But we need to be sure that they are in the right direction. So we need to be sure that their strategies and operations are in line with the SDGs, Agenda 2030, and Paris Climate Agreement. So what we did was to see what companies are doing, because we think that everybody is able to pledge, but we need to go and see what they are really doing in the real world. In order to do that, this is a research project which has been going around for 2 years. And after the first year, we introduced this scheme, this framework, in order to understand if companies are really aligned with the SDGs. And this framework is based upon 4 pillars. The first one is, are products and strategies of the company contributing to healthy and sustainable dietary patterns? So are the companies promoting the right behavior? Are companies promoting the right dietary regime? Secondly, are the companies doing properly in a sustainable way, both in terms of operations, but also in terms of internal processes, which means also administrative processes? Third, how it works with its supply chain, how a company is promoting, if it is promoting sustainable behavior in the supply chain, in the value chain. So we cannot consider the company just the walls of the company, but its entire supply chain. Fourth, is the company behaving properly in terms of is the company a good citizen? Is the company caring about its community? Is the company careful about the lobbying activities? Is the company paying the right amount of taxes in the right place? So these are the 4 pillars through which we analyze companies, or we are analyzing more and more companies. Of course, we need to be careful about different sectors, so I don't want to spend time in this, but we need to be careful about different steps of the value chain: inputs, production, trade, processing, and distribution. We know there are major differences. And we carried on this project in a partnership also with the World Benchmarking Alliance. We contributed to their benchmark, and they are also contributing to our ideas. And that is very important because that is very ambitious initiative, as you probably know. So what we found? We found, first of all, that in terms of, if we look at the reporting standards, usually they give very little attention to pillars which are not the processes. So if you look at products or supply value chain and being a good corporate citizen, well, usually you don't have a room given to these issues. So mainly standards give importance to internal processes. But also we went and looked at 12 companies, looking at their sustainability reports for 2 years. And what we are doing, we are breaking down our scheme, our framework of the 4 pillars into 18 topics. So we have 4 pillars, but each of them is then broken down in various topics. And here you have the list. I would be very pleased to continue the conversation after this very interesting panel. But these 18 topics help us to understand what companies do with reference to the 4 pillars. Which are the results? So we found that there are, as we were expecting, more disclosures for beneficial products and strategies, but in general, they are just showing ingredients or what they are doing, but there's not really a concrete promotion of healthy and sustainable diets. As it was expected, there's more room given to sustainable business operations and internal processes, while there is a low level of disclosure for supply chain and for good corporate citizenship. So definitely what needs to be improved, companies should be more keen on promoting healthy and sustainable diets rather than just providing descriptions. Also, what we found is that there are too many standards, too many accountability mechanisms. So it is very difficult for the public opinion, for citizens to understand and to compare, but also for the markets. And also there are very few disclosures by country, why it is very important to go on by country. I don't focus on this, but just to show that we also analyze another important issue for us. If companies disclose targets for their activities in terms of sustainability. So in general, we can say that they are not disclosing targets. So this is something that we need to radically improve, because otherwise it will be impossible to give the proper contribution to the achievement of Agenda 2030. So they need to be much more precise in terms of targets being pursued. So which are the recommendations? For policymakers and regulators, definitely we need to improve the frameworks. Otherwise, it's very difficult to really stimulate the right behavior, but also to compare among companies. And also more focus needs to be given to supply chain and corporate citizenship. On the other side, we need more rigorous metrics. And this is the area where we are working with also other institutions to have more metrics more coherent with the Agenda 2030. As far as the business is concerned, as Alan was saying, it is important to be more systematic in disclosing strategies, initiatives, results, but also long-term sustainability targets. And also businesses should be more strong in promoting more sustainable and healthier dietary patterns through a very powerful tool they have, their marketing and communication activities. They can do a lot. They can do a lot to promote healthier patterns. We know that investors are key in this change, and if we have more rigorous metrics, we might have a more active dialogue with the companies. That would be very, very useful. But in general, what is important and what we learned is that we need to give more support to businesses, also for small, medium-sized enterprises. So this is what we are doing now, because we understand that business can contribute to more sustainable food systems. The question is not any longer why they should do that, but how. So this is the reason why our initiative, Fixing the Business of Food, is becoming more an open partnership to support companies. And this is what we are doing. We are liaising with policymakers and sustainability standard setting actors to improve frameworks, but also we are enlarging our analysis of cases. We have also promoted a self-assessment model in order to support companies. And it is very important to highlight best practices. So we have created a web platform to do that. This will be very helpful to engage in dialogues with investors. So we are analyzing, but also we are promoting concrete steps to support companies. We need to support companies because large multinationals they have their own internal, or they have their own tools in order to improve, but all the others need to be supported. So we are really committed to that. And our outcome, we would be pleased to present it to the Food System Summit 2021 in New York. Here I stop, and thanks a lot for your attention. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Angelo, and thank you again for stepping in at such short notice. It's truly appreciated. I like the 4 pillars of corporate SDG alignment, and I was looking through them, and I wondered whether you could share with us some of the targets, or more the indicators that some of the businesses are using around nature and biodiversity. Anything you can share with us on what the metrics are they're looking at, if they're going to say they're moving in the right direction?
Well, for instance, one major issue, of course, in terms of targets, is CO2 emissions. CO2 emissions is one of the areas where definitely we found some good practices in terms of, but this is because CO2 is an issue that has been around for a long time. So we have a tradition, we have tools, we have environmental accounting. So for instance, if we look at a major issue, of course, like CO2 emission or even GHG emissions, we are satisfied in general of what are the metrics being used. As you said, much more difficult is when we go to biodiversity, or we go towards issues like land management, which is more difficult for a company. So this is the reason why, as I said before, we need to work more and more on finding metrics, and we need to have an alliance between our initiatives and science, because we need to find easy to read, timely, precise indicators for these purposes. So my answer to your question is that there are some areas like GHG emissions or CO2 emissions where we are rather satisfied, we are rather pleased. Other areas need major improvements.
Okay, thank you.